in Europe, we have a lot of rather negative news about the Americans in the last 5 years, let's say that. And I think we are all enjoying like the fact that this country is so great to visit. The people are amazing, so welcoming. The culture is amazing. It's like Europeans are getting a new view of America right now, I think, through our content. And that's cool, I think.
I think America hosting the World Cup has really shown us something. I'm going to say it, and I think everyone's maybe been thinking about it as well. I think this World Cup has shown us that maybe we've been played by each other's governments. I know for one, Britain really plays everybody against America. It tries to make everyone hate America, gives everyone preconceived expectations of America. But, and here's the but, everyone has come to America and fallen in love with it. Absolutely fallen in love with it.
For years, a lot of Europeans built their entire picture of America out of headlines, viral clips, and secondhand stories. Crime everywhere. Terrible food. Cold, unfriendly people. A country falling apart at the seams. Then the World Cup landed thousands of them on American soil for the first time in their lives. And one after another, the same reaction kept showing up online. Some version of, wait, nobody told me it was actually like this. This is not a story about America being perfect. It is a story about the gap between the version of this country Europeans were sold from a distance and the version they are actually finding up close right now. The first myth almost every fan brings with them is the idea that American cities are dangerous, all the time, everywhere. Fans who arrive braced for that reality often describe something different once they actually walk the streets of host cities during the tournament. Packed, well-lit downtowns. Families out late. Crowds of strangers from a dozen countries mixing together without incident. For a lot of visitors, the disconnect between what they expected and what they saw becomes one of the first things they mention on camera. Some fans admit, openly, that friends and family back home tried to talk them out of the trip. Entirely, citing news stories about crime they had seen shared online. Watching those same fans a day or two later, relaxed and laughing in a crowded fan zone, becomes its own kind of proof that the picture they were given did not match the full reality. That does not mean the myth is entirely false. Some fans do encounter a rough block, a tense moment, a story from a local that lines up with what they had heard. But the blanket idea that danger is constant, everywhere, all the time, rarely survives more than a day or two of actually being there. Ask a European what they expect from American food, and a lot of them will say some version of fast food, and not much else. Then they actually eat there. Fans discover barbecue traditions that have been perfected over generations in Texas and the Carolinas. They discover food scenes shaped by immigrant communities from Mexico, Vietnam, Ethiopia, and dozens of other countries, all packed into single neighborhoods in cities like Houston and Los Angeles. What they find is not the absence of food culture. It is a different kind of food culture, one built on scale and variety instead of the tighter, older traditions they grew up with. The portions still shock them. That part of the stereotype turns out to be true. But the idea that there is nothing worth eating turns out to be one of the myths that falls apart fastest. Plenty of European visitors arrive expecting a kind of guarded, transactional culture, shaped by movies where every interaction feels rushed or impersonal. What they run into instead is the opposite. Strangers striking up conversations in line at a coffee shop. Locals stop fans in the street just to talk football or ask where they are visiting from. Cashiers who actually seem to mean it when they ask how your day is going. For visitors from countries where public friendliness can feel more reserved, this open, talkative culture is one of the most repeated surprises of the entire trip. Years of viral clips showing empty downtowns, closed storefronts, and struggling cities shaped a specific idea in a lot of European minds. That America, as a whole, is a country in decline. During the World Cup, that picture runs straight into packed stadiums, overflowing restaurants, and fan zones filled with tens of thousands of people from every corner of the world. Fans who expected to film empty, tired streets end up filming the opposite, and more than one has posted some version of the same caption. They told me this place was dying. Part of the disconnect comes down to what actually goes viral in the first place. A clip of a boarded-up storefront travels much further online than a clip of an ordinary, busy Tuesday afternoon downtown, simply because it feels more dramatic and more shareable. Over time, an entire generation of viewers ends up with a skewed picture built almost entirely out of the worst 5% of footage, mistaken for the full, ordinary reality of the other 95%. The honest truth sits in the middle. Some American cities really have struggled with vacant storefronts and shrinking downtowns in recent years. But the idea that the entire country matches that picture does not hold up once fans actually see the range of what is really out there, city by city. Quick pause before we get into the rest of these myths. If this is changing how you see things, go ahead and subscribe, because we're breaking down more misconceptions like this all tournament long. And drop a comment. Which one of these myths did you believe before watching this? Let's keep going. Gun culture in America is real, and it shapes a lot of how Europeans picture the country before they ever arrive. Some fans genuinely worry about it before their flight. Once they land, most describe something far less dramatic than what they pictured. Ordinary daily life in host cities, packed with families, tourists, and matchday crowds, looks a lot like ordinary daily life anywhere else, at least on the surface. The myth is not that guns do not exist in America. It is the assumption that their presence changes the texture of everyday public life in some constant, visible way. For most visitors, that specific fear fades fast once they are actually walking around. European fans, especially from countries with national healthcare systems, often arrive with a specific worry. What happens if something goes wrong while they are there? What a lot of them discover is more nuanced than a simple myth or fact. American emergency care, in a genuine crisis, tends to be excellent and fast. What surprises visitors is the cost that can follow afterward, even for something minor, a reality that rarely gets mentioned in casual conversation before the trip. This is one of the few myths on this list that flips in the other direction. Fans do not discover it was exaggerated. They discover it was, if anything, understated. A specific stereotype follows America across Europe, that it is a young country with no real history or culture worth exploring, especially compared to centuries-old European cities. Fans who actually spend time in host cities during the tournament often walk away with a different impression. Distinct regional identities, food traditions, music scenes, and architecture that vary dramatically from city to city. New Orleans does not look, sound, or feel like Boston. Miami does not resemble Seattle. Fans expecting one flat, cultureless country instead find dozens of distinct identities stitched together under one flag, each shaped by different waves of immigration, history, and geography. Some fans arrive expecting America to be either impossibly cheap or impossibly expensive, depending on which version of the internet they trust more. The real answer depends heavily on where you are and what you are buying. Gas and cars tend to feel cheaper than back home. Healthcare and rent in major cities tend to feel far more expensive. Restaurant meals, once tipping and tax get added in, often cost more than the menu price first suggested. Fans quickly learn that there is no single, simple answer to whether America is cheap or expensive. It depends entirely on which slice of American life you are pricing out. It is worth asking why so many of these specific ideas took hold in the first place, across an entire continent, among people who mostly had never actually visited. Part of the answer comes down to what social media naturally rewards. Dramatic, negative, extreme content spreads faster and further than ordinary, boring, accurate content ever does. A single viral clip of a chaotic moment in one American city can reach more European viewers in a week than years of ordinary daily footage ever would, simply because algorithms are built to push whatever gets the strongest reaction, not whatever is most representative. Layer that on top of years of news coverage that, understandably, focuses on real problems and real crises rather than ordinary daily life, and you end up with an entire audience whose mental picture of a country was built almost entirely out of its most extreme moments, stacked one on top of another until they started to feel like the whole story. By the time most fans reach the end of their trip, the picture they walk away with is more complicated and more honest than anything a headline or viral clip ever gave them. Some fears turn out to be overblown. Others turn out to be understated. Some good things get exaggerated. Others get completely missed by the stories fans heard beforehand. The real lesson is not that America is secretly perfect, or that every negative story about the country is false. It is that no single narrative, good or bad, can capture a country this large and this varied, and that showing up in person remains the only real way to find out which parts of the story were true all along. And that is the gap between the story and the reality, straight from the fans living it right now. If this opened your eyes even a little, smash that like button. It genuinely helps this channel grow. Subscribe if you're new, because we're covering fan reactions and myth-busting moments from every host city all tournament long. Drop a comment and tell me which myth surprised you the most. And check out the video right there on your screen, because you're going to want to see that one too. See you in the next one.